Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and good morning to everyone in the time zone in the morning time, and good afternoon from Thailand. And if someone come from somewhere with the time zone of evening time, good evening to you as well. And welcome to CESRA Talk on achieving carbon neutrality in agricultural farms and assessment mechanisms. And today's discussion will focus on achieving carbon neutrality in agricultural farms and assessment mechanisms by Dr. Surendran. You Yudaya something. Sorry for your last name, but you put you in here. So I'm not sure, is that the right one or not? Dr. Surendran is a principal scientist from Divisions of Remote Sensing Application, Indian Councils of Agricultural Research, or ICA, National Bureau of Soil Survey and Land Use Planning in Nagpur, India. So a brief introduction of Dr. Surendran. He holds both a master and PhD in soil science. His areas of expertise including soil science, agricultural water management, applications of remote sensing, and GIS for natural resources management, drought management, climate change adaptations, wastewater irrigation, soil fertility management, precision farming, and many more. So with over 14 years of experience in soil science, he has published more than 100 articles. I can say that. I say from your biography, and then more than 10 books and book chapters. And if I miss anything, you can mention in your presentations. And Dr. Surendra, thank you very much for joining us today, and honor to have you with us. And I will now hand over the floor to you for your presentations. And following that, we will open the floor for the questions and a group discussion at the end of the presentations. If you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the nice introduction and also for giving me this opportunity to interact with all of you. The topic what I plan today is to discuss is achieving the carbon neutrality in agriculture farms and how the assessment can be made in this farm. So just a little bit, I hope my time is around 40 minutes or 45 minutes. I'll try to restrict or try to finish before that so that we can have a good discussion. So if you go to the background of this topic, like as all of us know that agriculture and climate change has severely as a relationship with respect to and agriculture is being significantly affected by the climate change issues, whether it is extreme events or less rainfall or excess temperature. All those things are affecting the quantity in terms of production, then quality, and overall the cost of production. So improving the resilience of agriculture system to this kind of climate change, especially in the global south, we need to protect the natural resource base, especially the soil and water, by way of developing new strategies, tools, and practices for adaptation. So as I mentioned, there is a direct impact, and it's evident from many of the research activities, not only from our side across the globe. We have found that the crop yield is reducing, crop quality is deteriorating, and when you look at the GHG emissions are the reasons for the climate change which we are talking about. This is the data with respect to India as per the commitment what we have given, and based on that the biennial report as well as all submissions to UNFCCC. So that data only I'm presenting here. So agriculture contributes around 14% of total GHG emissions. And within agriculture sector, if you look at that, enteric fermentation, that is especially from the livestock population, is more, whereas the rice as well as fertilizers, manures, and burning of residues also contribute to the GHG reduction. And energy is the major sector. So, but what we committed is by 2070, it will be a carbon neutral state, or what you call country. For that, how the agriculture sector can contribute is that what we are today going to discuss. So if you look at that, soil is one of the largest organic carbon stocks on the planet with more than 1,500 this thing, and to the depth of 1 meter. And if you see for 2 meters depth means it is around 2,400, and it is the largest one. And it's if you look at that, it is the least expensive and most readily implementable option, so that the negative emissions can be thought about that without much cost involved in that, even though the farmers are directly involved in that. But it has a positive option. If you look at that, it is a win-win kind of situation, because it will improve your soil properties, whether chemical, physical, and biological, as well as your overall the system productivity or ecosystem productivity. So in that sense only we are dealing with these things. And carbon credit, if you talk about it, is the difference between the two large fluxes of uh, uptake as well as respiration from the system. And it's very difficult to measure if you require sophisticated equipments and all. So how best we can try this with the kind of models or process-based methodologies or remote sensing techniques? That's what we are trying to do. And for the last 15 years, as I mentioned, many of the case studies which we have done, I'll try to show that thing. And as all of you know, it's directly related to all the SDGs. It means directly or indirectly. But if you look at the direct relationship, the soil organic carbon as a relationship with means zero hunger, SDG 2, then SDG 6, then SDG 13, SDG 15, and these are all directly. But other SDGs also, it is indirectly related or connected. But if you look at the global database, or if you do the meta-analysis, what many of the studies have shown that the rate of carbon change or the soil organic carbon change varies from around 0.2 to 0.8 percentage. It depends on the mechanisms or the management strategies which we are looking at. So based on that, on an average, Indian soils, we found that around 0.3 to 0.4 percentage is what we can try to bring into that changes. Even though it may be looking a small number if you talk about that, but in overall the geographical area and all, this will have a definite impact, and the farmers can also get the benefits out of that. But before going into that, we should know how and how much we can increase, because this carbon, there is a saturation point, or the storage potential, there is a limitation. So even though if you have different management strategies or options, the point at which reaches, so there it will have a saturation potential. So beyond that, if you add more also, it may have a positive emission, in the sense the emission will be more, so that will have a definite negative impact as well. So we need to understand these mechanisms, whether any negative social environmental factors or social factors are available. So based on that, you need to select the management options. So now these are just basics. Just I wish to say how it is important and how much we can try, and what is the possible range for the last 30, 40 years based on our analysis as well as the earlier reports. I told the numbers and all, but really now I will go into the case studies which we have conducted with respect to these carbon related studies, and how that assessment mechanisms can be come into the smallholders farming systems or farmers or plots. So there only our requirement is there, because mostly Indian or global south, if you look at that, the agricultural fields are very small in size. So whatever your techniques or technologies we are talking about, it should address to that small holding farmers or marginal farmers. So these are all few studies which was funded by many agencies, national as well as international agencies. Especially we tried with the carbon flux measurements, carbon sequestration potential of different land use system, and how climate change is influencing. Similarly, carbon calculator, or the assessment mechanism, which is the topic of today's discussion. So what are all the mechanisms currently available across the globe, and how it will fit into that. So before going into that things, mainly our key research questions was, what are the key drivers that influences the SOC stocks, and how the advanced tools, especially the remote sensing, GIS, and machine learning models, you can use it for predicting the SOC using the already available legacy data sets, which across the globe it is available by FAO, soil grids, open land map, different sources are available. So, and what is the optimal data acquisition configuration you need to do that so that we can address the smallholders. Those things I will come into the later picture. And which are all the options or combination of options with respect to the management strategies which you are trying to address so that the sustainable agriculture or improvement in the carbon credits can be obtained when there is a difference in the biophysical and other economic settings. So this is one of the case study. We have compared the different land use systems. Actually, this is a humid tropical regions in Western Ghats regions of India. So there we have compared a different land use systems, especially in agriculture itself. There were perennial crops like pepper, coconut, similarly mixed type of vegetation, then annual crops like rice, then cereals, whichever that they are growing, then pulses, like that, then vegetables. All those things we try to address this and understand the carbon sequestration potential and validate using any kind of carbon simulation models. So even though we followed the approach of digital soil mapping in general, but just for understanding of the audience here, we try to categorize it to different categories. One is agroecological units, then cropping system covering major crops, irrigated as well as rain-fed, then topography based like lowland, midland, highland, then size groups of the farmers like marginal, small, medium, and large, and the management aspects as well. So all this has been recorded in these areas. So we have covered this much of crops, especially the coconut, arecanut, nutmeg, spices, spices in the sense black pepper, ginger, turmeric, cardamom. So these are all the few sampling, and we collected all the management practices and tried to understand the carbon pattern, or what you call the SOC range. And we found that the mixed cropping system, which having different crops within the system itself, is producing a good result when compared to the other land use system, whereas the acacia or the monocrop planting is resulted in the lower SOC sequestration potential. And we tried that with the different kind of analysis like spectral, soil spectral analysis, then FTIR based to confirm that. And then this data has been incorporated into different models, especially this with respect to carbon, it is Century and ROSI. But we tried with the different for water management, nutrient management, and all. We have gone with the DSAT, aquacrop, and all. So since this topic today we are discussing is focusing on carbon, I will be telling only related to carbon, especially the Century and ROSI. So we got a good prediction for the observed carbon stocks as well as the predicted one, which is somewhat you can get it better results based on the management, and few publications are also available. So how this has been validated is we validated with this data sets using the 112 years old permanent manurial experiment, which is being held in India, that is similar to the Rothamsted model. Means Rothamsted experiments, long-term fertilizer experiments. So we have different sets of experiments. So this one set of data for 112 years data sets we used, and then validated this model using DSAT as well as the Century. Century is inbuilt within the DSAT. Then we tried to evaluate different management practices. For example, drip irrigation, what will happen, mulching, what will happen, black pepper, cauliflower, cabbage, cowpea, coconut, like different crops with the different management practices also we have evaluated, and try to understand the CO2 flux using the carbon flux system as well as the traditional methodologies, and try to understand the emission, means respiration, as well as the sequestration or sink potential from these experiments. So what we found that if that is also under different conditions. For example, if the temperature increases, so we have the CTGC facilities as well as the controlled conditions by which you can increase the temperature up to 2 degree, 4 degree, like that. So based on that, if the temperature increases, what will happen to this respiration or the emission of carbon? So that also we assessed, and we found that if the management practices are adapted or tuned to that kind of increase in temperature, we can sustain the yield, as well as the same time we can reduce the CO2 emissions as well. So which means that there are enough mitigation strategies has to be adapted if the temperature is increasing. So that is what we tried with the different techniques like drip fertigation, different quantity of manure and fertilizer applications in different combinations. So, and found that how this can be controlled under different management practices. And there is a positive response or significant responses there when you go with the these kind of management strategies, which confirm that there is a possibility that this land use change as well as the management practices strongly influence your carbon dioxide emission rate as well as the sequestration pattern. So that it is what we are telling is that possibility is there that on a long-term basis. If you are planning for these kind of management strategies, definitely our carbon sequestration potential can increase, which will have a negative impact about the climate change related issues. At the same time, we will improve our productivity and sustain the soil health. So this is what most of our findings from these kind of experiments. Then another thing, as I mentioned in the beginning, we need to understand the CO2 flux means we need the sophisticated equipments and instruments or systems. So this is one system called eddy covariance flux tower, which we have installed in two kind of locations. This is also in the Western Ghats region, especially in the another state in India like Tamil Nadu, where this is a part of Nilgiris. It's a what you call biodiversity hotspot. So there we have installed this eddy covariance, which is a little bit costlier things. So it will give you all sort of carbon dioxide flux, water flux, as well as your gas primary productivity, net efficiency. All those things you can get it from the single equipment or instrument. Means tower. So that we try to get this data. This is like 4-5 years data we are having, and this is the land use specific to that region. That region has the forest, plantations, horticulture and agriculture crop. And if you look at the long-term thing, that tea occupies around 70% of the cultivated area, whereas horticulture and other agriculture crops occupies about 30%. And this is the flux tower. Along with that, we have the soil CO2 emission as well as the soil moisture measurements at these particular plots, and try to get the details of energy ecosystem balance. So the results showed that this I am showing for 2-3 years of data. So here what we observed is it is like for most of the season, whether it is winter, summer, monsoon and post monsoon, we got the negative values, which means that this ecosystem is acting as a sink for atmospheric carbon dioxide by reducing the GHG emissions and finally ameliorating the global warming. So this is a positive point which we have noticed for this specific plantation crop like tea. And mostly it is negatively correlated with the many of the parameters related to meteorological or whatever which we are talking about. So if it is a negative NE means it is a photosynthesis dominated and ecosystem acts as a carbon sink, just for your understanding. Whereas if it is positive means CO2 will be released to the atmosphere, and that will be means that ecosystem or the agriculture system will behave as a carbon source. So which should not be good for the overall thing. So it should be negative. So that's what we observed irrespective of the months. We found that, but there is a variation in between different seasons as well as different monsoon periods, but still it is a positive thing. And when we compare the different land uses, we found that shola forest and mixed forest, it is having a strong carbon sequestration potential, and grassland is also a balanced system. Whereas eucalyptus, acacia, and these kind of monoplantations, their respiration is higher, which means they are acting as a negative, but still some months it's positive, some months it's negative. Whereas in the case of agriculture, when there are tillage practices are happening, then that will have a definite impact on your carbon dioxide flux. So that needs to be managed. And we found a good correlation with respect to CO2 fluxes with respect to evapotranspiration, temperature and wind speed as well as. So this suggests that these ground parameters are influencing the carbon flux in these systems. Then the next one is paddy. This is an important crop across the global south if you look at that. So there are also so many technologies are available. How to measure these things, carbon dioxide flux and what are all the, because being flooded things, the CH4 emissions or methane emission is seems to be high, and that how we can reduce, as I mentioned in the beginning, that the GHG emissions, carbon, different sectors next to the livestock. Paddy fields are one of the sources. So we try to monitor that using remote sensing as well as the crop modeling and then carbon modeling exercises. And for example, paddy is normally during grown kharif season or rainy season. So during that time, multispectral or optical will be difficult. So for monitoring that thing, so we use microwave data sets as well. And we have had a few field experiments at multiple locations to understand the package of practices. For example, if you are using aerobic rice, alternate wetting and drying, what will happen? Direct seeded rice, what will happen? Transplanted, what will happen? Different kinds of nitrogen management, different varieties, how it is influencing. So all those things we try to understand the pattern and measure the photosynthesis, soil moisture, all those parameters. So these are all some of the field photos. You can see that we monitored controlled conditions like temperature, leaf temperature, all those parameters which is required for the modeling, then photosynthesis. And based on that, we evolved some water and nutrient. This is like aerobic rice. You can see it's not underwater, not under flooded condition. It's upland crop. And then we try to correlate with the hyperspectral data as well as the multiple spectral thing. And similarly for what do you call methane emission, how it can be reduced in the rice field. This is particularly conducted in Spain by one of our PhD scholar under CJR fellowship. So there we tried to alter that by winter flooding, no winter flooding, how this methane emissions can be controlled by incorporating the straw into the field, how that will influence or reduce. So that methane we have measured, and we found that under high temperature as well as winter flooding, the methane emission is peak to that peak. So how that can be controlled also, we have gone with a different kind of management strategies like straw bag experiments, and we found that how it is decomposing. So we found that non-winter flooding with late straw incorporation demonstrated the lower emissions compared to other treatments. So this is what we tried in India as well with the different management practices like alternate wetting and drying, and this kind of nutrient management as well as the other practices. And then with the help of these data sets, we try to predict the irrigation requirement, nutrient management, then water management, and try to generate the decision support system based on these models. And based on that, the farmers can be advised to give the suggestions or management practices which will enhance the carbon sequestration and reduce the GHG emission as well as improve the potential production of the crop. So these are all few of the publications arised out of these things. And one other technique is like mulching with the trash or shredding the trashes within the field itself, which also showed a high improvement in the soil carbon stock as well as built up. Similarly, micro irrigation or drip fertigation also showed a positive results. So these are all some of the techniques which we attempted, and we resulted in the possible like 100% higher yield that is which is possible under the Indian conditions. And then uniform produce we got. Energy also saved, like 30% electricity saving. So that will have a direct impact on your carbon emissions, savings in water as well as fertilizer usage. So this is in nutshell the case studies and the management practices which we tried along with the carbon flux measurements and all. Based on that, we have gone for some of the case studies. So now we'll go into the assessment mechanisms directly for the small holding farmers or individual parcel wise or plot wise, how we can calculate the agriculture carbon calculators. So there are few tools which is open source available commonly, like Cool Farm tool, Exanthe carbon means exact by FAO, then Farm Carbon Toolkit, Farm Doc, ACE calculator. But each data, all these models or all these tools requires, or all these calculators require some kind of basic data, generally about the crop, fertilizers applied, soil organic matter status, what are the agrochemicals, what is the transportation they are using, how much tractors or cultivation practices they are being adopted. All those basic data sets you need to collect, whatever may be the calculator or tool you are using. And some of the individual tool wise I'll try to discuss. There are some pros and cons. We have compared many of these tools. Some of them for single use or means these things you can use it free of cost, but if you are going for a larger area or do you have some commercial interest, then you need to have the paid membership. So some of the pros and cons of these models I am discussing here for each individual tool. This FAO based exact is the best one. You will get most of the details. Only thing, it's a simple Excel based tools. So not much of the things. Only thing you need to have the data sets, and it is comparatively better. And some of the tools which will be missing the livestock data sets. So it's as a whole system, or if you consider the entire thing as a life cycle assessment, so you need to include all the information. So some of these calculators are maybe they may miss either livestock sector, or some may miss the fisheries related sector, or some may even for agriculture it may not be properly covered with all the crops. So these are all some of the pros and cons in each of this thing. Some has some advantage, some has some disadvantage. So we need to understand based on our requirement, we need to select the tool which we are. And if possible, you can generate your own tool based on the experimental data sets which you have already have the with this thing. Some of them are not user friendly and requires huge data sets as well. This is one CCFA's MOT tool, especially for rice as well as different. IRI has one tool called GHG sector. It is called source selective and emission adjusted GHG tool. So this is exclusively for rice. And most of these tools either use the IPCC based calculations, especially tier 1 approach. It means not much data sets are required. And if you are going for tier 2 or tier 3, then automatically the requirement of the data sets will be increasing. So then based on comparing all these data sets, then we developed a framework for understanding the carbon footprint or carbon assessments for the Indian agriculture scenario. And then we have come out with some kind of conclusions like tier 1 based approaches like regional level or for the country level, it's okay. But if you are going for the small scale or parcel level, it may not give you a better result since most of the factors are constant and default parameter values. Whereas tier 2, it requires a location specific data. So you need the highly temporal spatial data sets. So there are some for each country wise already tier 2 factors are also available based on the experiments from the research stations as well as the researchers. So you can use directly. You don't need to generate it. But still, if you wish to have some more thing, you can generate it later. And then tier 3 is one is a little bit complex methodologies which requires GHG modeling techniques. So there your data should be disaggregated at the subnational level or the plat level. And here the data requirements is very high and it is intensive, resource intensive. So sometimes it may not be available. As a researchers, we may be able to address it, but for policymakers or for putting into use, this may be a little difficult. So when you compare tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 2 approach will be little better for if you are going for the larger scale. So here what we tried with the development framework is that we have gone with the digital soil mapping approach to establish the carbon baseline based on our legacy data sets. And as you know that soil is Scorpion model, generally we call it as it's influenced, that means the properties are influenced mainly by climate, organisms, relief, parent material, age, location. So if you have the database legacy datasets with the help of DSM, you can understand what is the current situation without much sampling. So you can reduce the sampling exercises and intensive sampling can be reduced. So initially we have to understand and collect the legacy datasets or historical datasets, then the environmental covariates you have to generate, then field sampling, pre-processing, then prediction and mapping. After that, you have to have the accuracy and uncertainty assessment. So this is the methodology by which we have attempted. So for that, since I was mentioning about the legacy datasets, you need to understand about the soil especially. So this is one case studies where we have done for two typical contrasting characters. You can see one is a black cotton soil, which is having high clay content, shrink and swell behavior. So, but the SOC content will be generally low. And similarly, but if you look at the SOC stock, it will be very high because of the depth as well as the bulk density. And another region was clay, means red. The photo may be missing, just it may be coming again. So there you will have the carbon content will be little high, but the depth will be low, so that the soil taxonomy or the soil basics will have a definite impact on the SOC stocks. That's what I am trying to convey. And finally predicted the soil organic carbon map of this particular approach. And then based on the land use land cover data, you can combine these data sets together and build out your carbon stock estimation based on that. And in addition to that, for the benefits of the farmers, you can suggest the best management strategies as well. So based on that, we have evolved with this carbon calculator, and tried in different agriculture farms in Kerala, and some of them has got the certificate. And this is the one thing which I wish to convey, that this is the first state or in India which has taken for many departmental agriculture farms, means government farms, they have taken the certificates based on the carbon mapping. So these are all some of the photographs of that. So this is the framework which we are trying to make use of it, like the soil legacy datasets, then coupled with the long-term experimental datasets, then validate the model, then using the spatial or real-time remote sensing based approaches, we will be quantifying the differences between the historical as well as means from the baseline, how the management practices are influencing with the help of some kind of management strategies, especially water and nutrient management strategies. So this is the plan which we are proposing. So you need to have this kind of understanding. So it should be a scientifically designed study with the statistical planning and field data collections. You can use few of the mobile applications, which I have not shown here, but it is there. And direct field measurements, then combined with the process-based models, especially the Century and ROTC and DNDC also we have used. And then with the help of high resolution data sets, we can go for the mapping of digital mapping and then enhancing the carbon credits. So these are all few models commonly used. And we used especially Century, that is inbuilt in DSAT as well, then ROTC, then APSIM, DNDC. The other models, I don't have practical experience, but these are all commonly available. And it fits very well to our specific to Indian region. So to conclude my presentation, like what I was trying to convey is agriculture has a huge potential. That's what we observed. It can act as a GHG source as well. For example, in case of paddy, if you are going with the flooded rice, there is a possibility of methane emissions. But if you can manage that because at the same time, you need to protect the productivity as well. So we need to have a win-win situation. And many of the agriculture crops or the plantation crops actually acts as a carbon sink. That's what we observed for the plantations like tea, coconut, arecanut, which is having a high leaf litter as well as high quantum of biomass, which naturally acts as the carbon sink. Whereas the monoplantations as well as some of the wrong management activities may influence the GHG emission. So that we need to understand. So the carbon neutrality is achievable through climate smart as well as the regenerative practices. And what we observed practically is the carbon sequestration potential can be enhanced with the proper water and nutrient management strategies by improving the livestock incorporation or crop diversification. That's what we call it as, so that everything will come into that. And for assessment mechanism, we have a farm level GHG accounting tool that will be a good exercise and which will enhance the farm output, as well as farmers also get a price for that carbon credits. But that is not in full fledged as of now in India. It is happening here and there as a pilot scale. It is going on. But not to that level, because the amount the farmers are going to get based on the carbon credits, if you look at it based on my experience, it's too minimal as of now. But the other benefits or indirect benefits in terms of yield improvement, sustaining the soil health is much more important. And we need to integrate the geospatial tools, especially the remote sensing GIS and machine learning models. That is what more important, and policy support from the government side or organization like CESRA. This is very much important. So with this, I'll be stopping here, and I'd like to thank all my collaborators, national level ICAR institutes, agriculture universities, which are running these long-term fertilizer experiments, then international collaborators like EASA. We have done something on agroecological zonation and carbon, and this IRTA Spain, where we have had these methane-based experiments, and other funding agencies. So I'll stop here, and I'd be happy to take a few questions or clarifications or any kind of suggestions I would like to hear from the participants or delegates here. Thank you.
Have questions to Dr. Surendran? If anyone having question, please raise your hand, or you can talk, or if you don't want to talk, please put on the chat box. พี่นกมณี Mr. Aska, please.
First of all, many thanks to Dr. Sunra for his such a nice presentation. My question is a little bit policy based. As doctor representing his government, so my question is that we are living on the other side of the border and facing severe effects from flood water when the water cross the borders. So is there any planning that the Indian government prevent, restore the rainwater? And my other question is that is in close proximity of the border, most of the farmers they burn the husk, the rice husk, which creates a major smoke or fog, and they travels to other side of the border and create a big panic in the winter season. And due to that problem, a lot of accidents takes place. Our highways are invisible. So these two are my questions.
Yeah. Thank you for your nice questions. As directly, even though it's not related, but still, I would try to clarify your questions. One thing is, the first one you are asking about flooding, especially the government. What are all the policies now they are taking? So, just for your information, Government of India is looking at based on the data sets from CWZ, as well as CWZ is Central Water Commission of Indian Ministry of Water Resources, in combination with the National Disaster Management Authority, because it's like lives also getting lost and lot of infrastructure is getting lost. So this is actually, it is increasing over the recent, if you look at the data, because being worked in water sector, I also know that the last 10 to 15 years, means I can exactly tell after 2017 onwards, means last 8 years, the climate extreme events, means high intensity rainfall or cloud burst or those things are getting increased, especially in these kind of peninsular regions, which is having a direct impact on the downstream. So what the government is trying is now that they have taken different measures by which how this can be controlled, and you can very well verify that there is a system called Water Resource Information System of India. We call it in short form as VARIS. So many researchers are working on, and many practical measures which needs to be taken, especially to control this kind of flood, which is having a direct impact on the agriculture sector as well as the public infrastructure, so like roads and all. So that they are trying to maintain. But as you rightly pointed out, still some of the things are beyond the control of these things. When the cloudburst happens, a lot of landslides happen, and few people lost their lives as well in the recent past in Dehradun and all. But that is one case which we are trying with the different tools and techniques with the early warning systems, as well as how to manage that or how to abate this kind of issues. So that is the first related to your first question, and government is working on that. and field level we are getting that impact now, because earlier the loss of lives are very higher even through cyclones or these kind of extreme events, but that has been minimized to the maximum level. But with respect to the infrastructure laws or with respect to productivity laws in agriculture, it's working on and how to protect the interest of the farmers by way of insurance and all is being undertaken, and it's now proceeding to a good stage. That's what I can assure you. And with respect to the second question, it's directly related to the carbon as well, because the burning of residues will have your emissions of GHG or CO2, whatever you call. So that has to be reduced at any cost. So that's what now government of India is trying with the different ICAR institutions, as well as many NGOs and many industries also play into the role. This is happening especially in the Indo-Gangetic Plain, as well as your Punjab, Haryana, those areas. So what, because why the farmers are banning is that when it has been analyzed by CJR institutes as well as many ICAR institutes, it has been found that the crop window is very limited. So after the harvest of Kharif, then they start for the Rabi as well as summer crop. The gap is very less, so that they don't have time to allow the straw or your these things, paddy or wheat, whatever it is, to mulch within the plot, decompose it and make it for that. With the support of IARI, they have come out with the faster decomposing agents, which will decompose it within 30 to 40 days. So that the people are trying, but that is also not resulting in a good, what do you call, impact on the outcome which we are talking about. Residues burning, is it stopped, means it's not so effective when you talk about the decomposing agent. So what they tried is, now that's what I was telling, they were trying with these kind of options, enhancing the carbon credits. That is one point, and more than 20,000 farmers have been enrolled in this. So they will not burn these residues, because for the best management practices, that is also to be noted down, and they will be using it as a mulching or baling it out and taking it for multiple purposes for fossil, what do you call, energy production, and those things are happening with the help of industries. So this is what with respect to the straw management activities which government is looking at. I hope I have answered your question.
Thank you, Doctor. I have another suggestion for your government. If you can install a biochar plants, as you have a lot of feedstock, and as well as you have a waste of livestock, and through these practices you can achieve activated biochar. This is, I think, the best solution to control GHGs.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that suggestion. Yes, actually the biochar, I missed it. Already it is going on. And how it can be related to the livestock is also, they are under progress, but suggestion well taken. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And any more questions from the floor? If not, I would like to take opportunity to ask question myself. I think you already mentioned at the end of your presentation, but because I got lost, my signal got lost, so I'm not sure if the carbon sequestrations or this kind of strategy have been implemented into the smallholder farmers in the countries or in any parts of the country. Like, do you have any solid frameworks or strategy that including the farmers into this?
Yeah, it is now exactly. That's what I was also trying. Maybe you might have lost in between, as you told. Actually, it is in pilot scale in different states of India. For example, in the case of Punjab, Haryana, it is for rice cultivation. They are going with the practice of alternate wetting and drying, as well as your the residue management, which I was talking in the beginning. So more than 20,000 farmers, smallholders farmers of less than 0.25 acres or 0.4 acres or around 1 acre or less than that 8 acres farmers have been registered under that particular this thing, and everything is being recorded. And accordingly, from the baseline to the next crop or after a year, what is happening. So based on that, they have been awarded with the kind of credits. But as I mentioned, the amount is very nominal as of now. But still, the government is looking, since India, it is a voluntary carbon market. So they are looking at by giving some kind of other way by which the farmers get benefited. So for example, in the case of paddy, they are giving, if the farmers are practicing AWD, by which the energy is getting reduced, means irrigation water is reduced, energy is getting reduced, and ultimately GHG emission. So under such occasions, they are giving the cash of around 20,000 to each farmers as a direct benefit transfer under DBT schemes. So such kind of schemes are in place for different crops. This is just one example I was telling for rice. Similarly, for coconut, it is there in southern part of India, where in the coastal regions, we have noticed a good result or good impact on the and acting as a carbon sink. So like that, similarly for tea plantations, coffee plantations, it is already there. So each crop wise or each agricultural use wise, it is being decided, and there are several projects running by the government as well as many private players are also now in this sector.
Thank you. But is there any barrier to those farmers to access to carbon market? The barrier.
Sorry, I couldn't get any barrier with respect to.
Is there any barrier like the problems with the farmers if they want to get into the market, the carbon market?
Yes. For carbon market, there are barriers. Means directly farmers are not connected. So it is like they have to register with any kind of this private players or startups or with the government agencies. So the government agencies, it's not like directly related to carbon credit as such, but they are giving based on the practices which they are adopting. Suppose if they adopt this practice, which we know that it will improve the carbon, so automatically they are getting benefited.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
ค่ะพี่นกเชิญค่ะ
Thank you very much for your insightful and comprehensive presentation. It was extremely informative, especially you make the integration of the field measurement, modeling, and also the flood tower data. For me, I have two strategic questions. If we look forward to 2050, the ambitions of the carbon neutral agriculture, from your study, which management intervention would you prioritize in terms of the mitigation efficiency per hectare? And my second question is concerning to the context of the LDN project. What national strategy that is already in place to minimize the uncertainty in field data, modeling output, and also the MRV systems, so that the results can confidently support policy and the international reporting?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for your appreciation. Then coming to the questions, the first question is like exactly what you are asked. The second question I will tell first, the related to modeling uncertainties or with respect to data uncertainties.
Or the data, because from your study you collect a lot of data, no? Either the field data modeling to use the field data to generate the model as well. So my question is that under the context of the LDN project, did your country have the national strategy in place to minimize the uncertainty for all this data, so that the result can be confident for the support the policy and also the international reporting?
Yeah, really a good question. Like what our country is doing is actually now we have come to the open source platform. So we have a national geospatial policy released on 2022. So as per that, you need to have all your data sets open, and Ministry of Agriculture, with respect to Ministry of Agriculture, ICAR is the nodal agency, and they will be verifying all the data sets. Especially I am telling about soil, for example. Similarly, water is with the Ministry of Water Resources. So they need to share the data sets between each other as well as for the researchers or anybody who want to use that data set. Similarly, forest data sets has to come from Forest Survey of India. So all this data set should be interoperable as well. So each platform or decision support system has to talk to each other as well. So we have a decision support system called Krishi DSS, means agriculture decision support system. So which will host all these data sets, so anybody can access and use it. That is the first question. Is like, first thing is the availability of data sets. Then the second part is related to uncertainty or the issues with respect to prediction accuracy or whatever you call that. Many researchers are going on, and we have a soil spectral library as well as specific to carbon. If you ask me, currently we have an accuracy of around 75 to 80% accuracy is there for the samples which we have taken up across the different agroecological regions, different soil types like black, red, and all alluvial soils and all. But that can be improved. Still, there is a scope for improvement. It's undergoing research actually. But as of now, for the prediction accuracy or the uncertainty accuracy, we are having different measures how we can reduce the biases as well as the issues with respect to data or with respect to environmental settings or with respect to management or with respect to missing data, how that can be adopted so that the prediction accuracy improves. So that is in the ongoing process. As of now, we are getting around 75 to 80%, and the variation depends on different parameters as well. So it is an ongoing program. And with respect to the first question, I missed it, madam. Could you please repeat it?
In my first question, if we look forward to the 2050, because we have the ambitions of the carbon neutral agriculture, and from your study, what is your management intervention that you would prioritize in terms of the mitigation efficiency per hectare that you suggest?
Yeah, thank you, madam. It's a nice question. Actually, this also we analyzed the county level or states level. India, we call it as different composition of states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, different regions are there. No? So we have, so based on the individual states as well as the agroecological regions, we have identified for some of the states, they will achieve the carbon neutrality by 2050 itself as per the current scenario as well as the current management strategies. But some of the states, it will be a little more beyond. So we are targeting by 2070. But it has to reach by 2050. That's what we are trying. So the management strategies, what we observed with respect to agriculture sector is few things which, as you rightly mentioned, one is we are targeting the crop diversification, then water and nutrient management strategies, especially influencing the GHG emissions and reducing that, thereby sequestering more carbon as well as energy. So these are all few techniques which we are, because climate resilient system has to be also there. So climate issues are also happening. So that is why it is like ultimately we need to ensure the food security as well. So we cannot entirely change the crop system. So it should be a balanced win-win approach. So these are all few packages, and we have that list of strategies as I mentioned, which is available. If you are interested, I'll share it, madam. Like these water management strategies, similarly soil management strategies. So there we have listed down few of these strategies that needs to be adopted, and the targets, or this has been given to the Department of Agriculture or the extension agencies, those who are implementing in the field. So we hope that in a long run, we will be definitely achieve that with this kind of strategies.
May I have another question?
Yes,
On
please.
the experimental side that you have presented today, is all the sites are still ongoing for the monitoring? All the
Pardon?
sites that you have presented today, they still ongoing for the monitoring in the future, I mean. You still keep monitoring on this side?
Yes. It is. We are continuously monitoring, and we have this eddy-flax towers across India in different agroecological regions of India. More than 30 towers. We call it as under different systems. One is under climate resilient management system, and another one is under NICES program, National Information on Climate and Environmental System. So each system has this monitoring systems across India. under ICAR as well as other state agriculture universities and different agencies as well. So this data is being accumulated, and based on that only it is being monitored.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pinok. We have one question from the chat from Ms. Priyarat from Thailand. As you did mention on dual roles of carbon both TST source and carbon sink, how do you prioritize mitigation and sequestration versus sequestration strategy at the farm level?
Yeah, this is a very good question. This is the issue, as somebody was, madam was asking earlier about the barriers you were asking. So this is a very good question. Like that is the issue we are facing, because if you look at the farmers, priority, the first thing will be their profitability. Beyond any other thing, their thing will be high yield and high market price they will be looking at. But when we suggest this kind of management, for example, paddy case, I will tell because we have a lot of experience on that. When we ask them to go for alternate wetting and drying or such kind of management strategies, which will act as your carbon sink or reducing your emissions, but they may not be really interested to come forward to such kind of things, because the first thing is they will have a doubt that there will be a production loss. Because the issue is alternate wetting and drying. The practical issue the farmers are facing is it's a paddy cultivation is a continuous thing. Like many farmers, we call it here as locally like Padashayara Samiti or the clusters of farmers. So the irrigation water coming through the channels, farmers doesn't have any control over that. So they cannot require their water whenever they need. For example, alternate wetting and drying, we may be asking them to give a break for 1 week or 10 days. Depending on the soil moisture, when it comes down, they need to irrigate for the next irrigation. So that time they may not get water sometimes. So then automatically the whole system will collapse and the farmers will lose the interest on the carbon thing or whatever we are talking about, because if the crop is lost, then they may lose the interest as well. So what we did is to overcome these kind of barriers, actually we have a continuous meetings with the Department of Irrigation or the Water Resources, who actually supplies the water. We call it as a irrigation committee meetings before start of the crop. So accordingly, based on that, based on the water requirement for that specific region, we will have a plan, and that plan based only it will be irrigated, so that whenever they need the water will be given to that particular cluster of farmers. Similarly, whenever they don't want, it will be stopped, so that water logging can be avoided. At the same time, whenever they need, water also can be given. So this is where we will be prioritizing based on the location. Actually, it is a location specific thing. So normally as a researcher or as a government agency, we will be focusing more on sequestration strategies, but farmers' interest will be just opposite to that. They will be looking at the profitability. So we need to have a balance approach or win-win situation where the farmers also should not lose, because that's what the concern is there. So we have to give sufficient kind of backstopping to them. If there is something happening, we need to have some kind of support system or support mechanisms. That's how it is being implemented. That's what I mentioned. For adopting AWD, the farmers will be given a benefit of direct cash transfer to them, so that even there is a yield loss, if at all it happens, that they should not be in trouble. So that is what we found that this system is working well, and which is having a direct benefit to the farmers as well as the ecosystem or environment or to the nation.
Thank you very much. I agree for that. I think we can have one last question. If anyone having questions.